Today is Sunday, April 4th, 2010, and I am here to receive Father God's message. And he is saying, today is a special day, not for reasons that you might expect, not because there is a special gateway or a numerologically significant date. What this date is, what is special about this day is, it is the day on which you celebrate the resurrection of the one that you know of as Yeshua. And it is because you celebrate this day in this way that it carries special energy. And so I wanted to acknowledge this impact, you could say, that humanity has had in this way. It doesn't matter that in truth he wasn't really rising from the dead, because he didn't actually die, as those of you who have followed the material from Carolyn and Richard will understand. That is not the point that I'm raising here. It is because so many of humanity have chosen to acknowledge Yeshua in this way, to acknowledge that he came forth after the crucifixion and seemingly having been dead, that he came forth in this miraculous way, because it truly was miraculous, even though all of the circumstances are not by and large understood by humanity. But this acknowledgement of this great man has created an energy. It's created a gateway, you could say. It is a moment of upliftment. And I wish to particularly acknowledge this date because, as you will come to see, it is a date upon which some key changes are coming forth, which will be widely acknowledged as the evidence of the changes about which I have spoken. And so you will come to understand that indeed there is another resurrection of sorts happening on this day and over the next few days. And I'm going to be a little bit secretive with you, because I'm not going to give you more detail than that. I simply mention it because I know about it, and because there is a connection to the energies that have been created by humanity that indeed are assisting this to come forth. It is a gift to humanity that to some degree has been contributed to by humanity because of this acknowledgement of Yeshua. And seeing I have mentioned that he did not die, I will take a moment to fill in a little detail for those who are not familiar with these aspects of the material from Carolyn and Richard. Because Yeshua did not in truth die on that cross, though he was, for all intents and purposes, very close to death. He had learned how to still his bodily signs, something that some of you would know that some of the great yogis can do today, and some of the Essenes could do this. Yeshua's grandmother, Mother Mary's mother, known to many of you as Saint Anne and otherwise known as Anna, had the ability to still her bodily signs, and indeed you could say leave her body for extended periods, even up to 30 plus years, and then return. Her body was protected during this time, and as I have mentioned before, she lived for several hundred years. And this process was part of the disciplines and knowledge and understanding that she brought to this process. Part of what she did during that time was to renew her physical body. And I mention this not to spend time on Anna, but to give you some understanding of the skills and abilities which exist in relation to the human body when you understand how to work with it. And so Yeshua had been taught by Anna, and he was also taught by Babaji. And so when it came to that moment, he had decided that it would be the time when he would undertake key energetic work that he needed to undertake. I have mentioned that one of the things that he needed to do was to reconnect the energy pathways, you could say, by which ascension would occur, and he knew that was part of his mission. And so he took the opportunity of that very difficult time to actually undertake that work. He did not have to go through that process to undertake that work, but it meant that he would be in a particular state which would allow him to do that work, and so he chose that moment. And so he had stilled his bodily signs, and he was supported energetically by a number of the Essenes who were present at that moment. They were present at the site of the crucifixion, but also there were other Essenes who were located elsewhere who were also working energetically to support Yeshua so that he would survive this experience. And survive it he did. And so when he was taken down from that cross, he was not dead. He just looked like he was dead. And it is why when his side was pierced, that fluids ran from his body, because his blood was not congealed. And there's been much speculation about what the imprint upon the Shroud of Turin is. And some have come forth and said it's a fake. And other work has very clearly demonstrated that there are pollens and other things upon that shroud which originate from that part of the world. And I will say to you that that indeed is the shroud, the cloth which covered Yeshua whilst he was in that tomb that had been prepared for him by his uncle Joseph of Arimathea. And the reason for the imprint is because of the energy work that he was doing, the work that he was using his body to do, to reconnect those pathways from this dimension to the next. And it brought great energy into his body. It's like his body was almost radioactive, you could say, and it caused that imprinting because of the energy that his body contained. It was almost like a photograph of his body that was left imprinted upon that shroud. And so that is why that imprinting occurred, because of the work that he was doing whilst he was in the tomb. Critical work which was preparing for this time, this ascension moment which will be upon you at that March equinox of 2013. So I firstly wanted to acknowledge this date because of the power that has been given to it by humanity, and secondly, to have you understand the truth behind the crucifixion event. And so it is.